Well, thank you again for taking the time to meet with me and just like talking about the work and like being in the show. Um, do you have any like thoughts about the show itself or the theme?
Um, yeah, I can. I mean, if you want me to jump in, I was very excited about the theme, New Futures. I think it's extremely important given so many of the current issues we're facing, and we're seeing our country at a point of really needing some change that has progressed over generations and generations, and whether it has to do with the pandemic or just systemic social issues that we need to all work on. So I think that this idea of trying to stand up and give voice to a new future that we all want to see is really important right now. And art can always be a great leader in that way. Art, in my personal belief, I think one of art's greatest gifts is that it's a connector and can connect a lot of different communities, a lot of voices, and especially now when we're relying on so much of these virtual connections, we can really share art and get our messages out there on a wider and global scale. And so thank you for giving us the opportunity for that with this exhibition, both in person and all of the virtual work that you're doing as well.
That's great. And Linda, what about you?
Well, I think of my work as being remains of life forms from the future. So I'm not so much thinking about coming up with some kind of prescriptive solution to the problems that we face going into the future. I do speculate in my work. It's as if it were possible to look into a landfill of the future and dig it up and look at the remains that are there. Mm-hmm. The life forms that I've created are symbiotic, and they combine things which are plastic or man-made, ceramic, and seemingly more bio based. Mm-hmm. So it's really about some kind of biological metamorphosis going on in my work. And I believe that is certainly possible. There already have been combinations of plastic and natural materials, the plastic glomerate that has been created through lava flow going over plastic forms that then become integrated with the feldspar. So I think it could be, and I guess that's my view of art as having the possibility of speculation or imagining what might be possible is really what's going on here. Mm-hmm. So in the survival mode series, which is what this work comes from, I'm thinking about what will survive in the future. What's going to have to change in order for life to survive? It's not going to be life as we know it necessarily. Mm-hmm. So in my work, I'm kind of guessing. Well, my husband's leaving. Bye.
Wow, those are really powerful questions, and it's a very uncertain time right now, so I completely understand like those thoughts and like those feelings. What do you think about that, Hilary?
I love just how much that invokes how many questions that invokes. And I really appreciate just starting with the questions and really making your work so explorative in that way. I think that not getting hung up on the resolve seems really important to your work, and I really appreciate that. There's a lot of energy and effort that needs to go into that process. Yeah, and I don't think anyone has the answers, but it's so interesting to think about what will remain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What will survive?
Yeah. Yeah, I applaud you for navigating that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's all guesswork.
Yeah, I would like to hear more about the materials you use, Linda. Like everything looks so interesting, and like you said, there's a weird biology and almost mechanical aspect of it. So if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I am using ceramic materials lately, clay. Clay being so malleable, it's the ideal material for me. It can become almost anything. It appears to have a living quality. At the same time, you need to be open to change in working with clay, because clay goes through an amazing metamorphosis through being subjected to high temperature. But, well, I'll show you a piece. Hold on.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm back. So I make these parts. Here's one.
That's so cool.
You see it?
Yeah.
Right. I make these parts, and to me, they appear to have the potential of evoking some kind of living
Mm-hmm.
form. Although I don't necessarily want to be too descriptive. I'm dancing pretty close to the edge of representation in these, but hopefully it's just an interesting teeter that's not necessarily too obvious. So I think of those as parts, and then I collect plastic, all kinds of discarded plastic. In fact, I'm looking right now for some empty laundry detergent bottles, because I kind of like the colors that they come in. But I will use anything discarded and broken toys. I'm liking that. Food, service, plastic, anything, parts of cars.
Mm-hmm.
My husband collects things that he finds on his walks when he goes with the dog. He'll take a bag and he finds plastic things for me and bring them home, and we run them through the dishwasher to clean them up.
Nice.
I also collect vintage ceramic doll parts, because those are so evocative of the body, and they also have a nice tubular quality. I'm very, very into the tubular forms. Here comes Red, this is the dog. And I use rubber tubing and also foam tubing. So it's a wide variety of things, parts, and those get combined and recombined until to me, they satisfy my desire to see something new, perhaps something creaturely emerge.
Mm-hmm.
I never quite know how they're going to go together when I'm making them and gathering them. It's only when I bring them together on the studio table or on the wall that I see something that I like. And then I think it's an odd marriage of sculptural considerations as well as painterly ones, because I'm very involved in the color relationships.
Mm-hmm.
How the colors speak to one another.
Mm-hmm. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is that
Oh,
answer the question?
yeah, you can answer it however, whatever works best for you. Um, I was going to bring up that your work and Hillary's work are all also a little bit similar. Like they're very colorful and bright and playful. There seems to be this element of like sorrow maybe, or even just like surreal peculiarity. Like I wanted to know, like Linda, or I'm sorry, Hilary, what was your process with making art, and if it's kind of similar to Hillary's? Or
Yeah, a lot of what Linda was saying really resonates with me. And what you just touched upon with having some sorrow and, you know, pain behind the eyes, so to speak, or something. But I really use the emotionality of color similarly to evoke some of those relationships. So the themes or ideas in my work usually are generated from ideas of domesticity and gender inequality, especially in cultural expectations within the home. And my work does utilize a lot of bright colors, like that piece that you just showed, Linda, with the lime green. Lime green is my favorite color. I use it all the time, but these vibrant colors that really vibrate and almost scream to be heard, but may not typically be used in kind of painful ways. And so I love that mix. And while it might be a happy palette, working with sharp lines or how the paint is applied or the color combinations next to each other can be a bit more jarring and bold to speak to some of the you know, more difficult conversations in the work. So I think there's definitely some shared knowledge or shared language, I think, between that you could find between our work. And I really do like I was saying about being a connector, but I try to foster in my work, I hope to foster in my work conversations around these difficult topics, particularly gender inequality. And by using seemingly cheerful, happy colors, I hope that it's on the surface, the work can be a little more inviting in, so you can explore and start to question the deeper topics at hand. And using a lot of surrealist shapes to represent that. I do have a lot of tubes in my own work as well. So I love when you started referencing the tube, Linda. One of my paintings in the show is titled Hot Blooded Woman, and there's this large tubular vessel on the left. And the tube for me is a metaphor for women, and in a variety of ways. I mean, it could be literally the biological structure of women, but mostly that there's this expectation or idea in the past of women being kind of introverted and holding their thoughts and abilities on the inside a little bit more. But with the open-endedness of the tube in my paintings, it's really allowing for the explosion on the other side. So Hot Blooded Woman is, I painted it in quarantine at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was just all of my passions and everything that was stirred up from thinking about women in 2020 and, you know, before the pandemic hit, and then also thinking now when everyone's forced to spend more time at home, how can we self-examine what our roles and expectations in the home are currently, and how have they shifted and changed. And so I was taking an inside look into that, but still using those playful colors to have that conversation. That was a lot, sorry.
oh no, I think that's great. Sounds it's
Thank you.
the more I think about your piece and like with your explanation, I think that it really solidifies like there's like this intense emotion going on, and just like the colors are almost like confusing and calming at the same time. And I think
Yeah.
feel like this is it's 2020. Everyone keeps making 2020 jokes, but like that's
I
kind
know.
of how it is.
Yeah, there's so many issues with 2020. Oh, it's a hard time.
We'll get there, but yeah,
Yeah.
going on. How long have you been an artist? This is
Um, I've, I mean, always been an artist. It runs in my family. My mother taught me how to work with oil paints when I was 7 or 8 years old. My great grandmother was a painter, so my mother is a painter. My father's an architect, and they really supported me. I went to undergrad for art. I recently went back to school and got my master's in visual arts. So I'm lucky enough to come from an artistic family where they supported me pursuing it in education and pursuit of it as a career. So yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, for always. Yeah.
amazing.
Thanks.
Linda?
Oh, well, I've always made stuff. Always been interested in collecting things and making things out of it. And yet, I don't think I thought of myself as an artist because I didn't come from a family of artists at all.
Mm-hmm.
My folks had been in business and oriented that way. So there was a lot of doubt around my desire to go to art school for undergraduate. I went to museum school here in Boston for undergraduate.
Oh, awesome. Me too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I came up to Boston. I had heard of the museum school through, researching what kind of art schools were available. I talked somebody into giving me a ride, driving me all the way up here to look at the school, and I walked in the door and just loved the place.
Mm-hmm.
This was way back when, in the million years ago. So, just 100 years ago, I walked in the place and it was just wild. It was right after the revolution when they had deposed all the structure that had previously been there was in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very open-ended, free floating environment. I loved it. I knew I needed to be there. So I did. I went there. I did 5th year. I didn't want to leave. But then I took a long hiatus after finishing 5th year. Before I went back to school, I went back to RISD. I got my master's 10 years later. So from the minute you walked in the door at museum school as a student, you were considered an artist. Whether you wanted to be, labeled that way or not, you were expected to fulfill that role. So I guess that's when I became an artist, is when I began my first day of first year at museum school back in, what was it, 73.
Wow. You never looked back.
Well, I couldn't. It was sort of like, yeah, you get on the rails and you're flying. You can't get off. You can't get off that bus. You can't get off that train.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say it's how I really wanted to. I've been fortunate enough to be able to maintain my practice. I know that's not possible for everyone. I know it's challenging, especially now, for people to be able to find space, for people to be able to find both the kind of support that comes through exposure and being in dialogue and a community of artists. Being in the Fort Point, I moved down to Fort Point when I finished museum school.
Mm.
Our first studio was an illegal loft on Melcher Street, and I was there for 16 years actually. and it was cheap. It was dirt cheap. So with the kind of earning power that I had as an artist, I'm not supported by my family. I don't have family money. I know a lot of artists do, but that hasn't been my path. I had to find a place that was possible, that I could have. So I could have enough space to, at the time I was making large paintings. I couldn't possibly have done that in a little, tiny apartment that so many artists today, young artists coming out, have to live in because that's what they can afford.
Mm-hmm.
So I was my timing was lucky. It was good. Good luck, really.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
oh, sorry.
long way around of answering your question about getting going as an artist and maintaining a career.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging. It really is.
Yeah.
Society doesn't necessarily have a easy way all set up for people to jump into and follow along at all.
I think I've noticed that people don't always realize how important art is. And I think during this pandemic, more and more people are actually realizing art is important. Like they watch movies, they take part in crafts, they like read, they listen to music. There's so much art that they're consuming. And I think more and more people are realizing how important art is.
Well, I hope you're right. I think
We'll see how long it lasts. And thank you for bringing up FPAC too. That was one of my next question. Hilary, how long have you been with FPAC?
I have not. This is my first experience working with FPAC. I saw the exhibition opportunity, and I've always, I get the emails, and I've always kind of followed FPAC and visited Atlantic Wharf Gallery many times, and always loved it. And I have friends that are involved. So this is my first connection working with FPAC, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
new member or you're not a member?
I'm not currently a member, no.
Oh, well, I will have you know that for being in the New Future show, you actually get a free 1-year membership.
Yes, I just saw your email on that. Yes, I'm excited and I would like to join. Yeah, so thank you.
I had no idea.
Where's your
What was
studio?
that?
Where is your
My studio is in my home apartment in Medford, just north of Boston.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
My next question, we already sort of spoke about this, but I guess why did you decide to enter into the New Future show? We can like talk a bit more about like the theme of the show and just how you react to the pandemic. Maybe you're just like going with it.
Well, actually, Kimberly, I would love to hear what your concept of the show was. To be honest, I entered slightly on a whim. I saw the prospectus. It sounded interesting. It sounded like something that, okay, yes, my work fits into, but I didn't give it a real lot of thought. But I'd love to hear what you had in mind and what you were hoping would happen when you wrote that prospectus and when you thought about how to put together a show like the Future.
Yeah. Originally, the show was actually going to be about sustainability. This was before the pandemic set in, but I originally planned for this to be about sustainability and just an artist's hand in kind of making sure the world is like the world keeps going in the best way possible. And it's going to be an environmental show. And in a way, I guess it still sort of is. And there was also titled New Futures then. And then once the pandemic started, we like myself and Kelly Pedersen, we thought to like rework the show that would kind of fit the, I guess, what's happening currently. And I thought really hard about it. I just thought like there's a whole lot going on right now, and everyone is sort of questioning how things will be different after whenever this is over. Like, will we be? I mean, already like grocery stores are different. The postal service is different. There's a lot of changes happening, and I was curious how artists would react to that change, and like how like how we fit into all of this. So
Good questions.
yeah, and the outcome has been great. Like I'm so happy that like it's either speculative or it's fun or it's kind of like worrisome. Like a lot of artists are sort of interpreting it in different ways, like as we do. And I really enjoyed just the outcome of the show. And there have been more thoughts that I haven't even thought of. Like one of the artists, he made just these little Lego birdhouses, and just like he called them Corona crafts, and it's like his name is Ian Kennelly, and it's just like, oh, I never thought that this could also just be a time to like not worry about anything and just do a little a little craft. I really appreciate all the perspectives on the show.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing all of this added virtual work for us.
Yeah, I just want to keep people engaged
Yeah.
as is possible. If anyone had any other like questions or thoughts or like things about the show or FPAC, you wanna talk about that a little bit? I may need to wrap up so I can get ready for the next group.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah, just thank you for having me here. Thank you, Linda, for sharing more about your work, and excited to be a new member.
Yeah.
It is nice to touch back in with FBAC because I, haven't participated in everything. I do open occasionally for open studios. I guess we're just not going to do that this year, which is.
We're actually doing a virtual open studios. Have you been, we have, I'll send you some links for that too. The sign up ends August 31st. So there's still some time.
Well, thank you both for sharing your interest and your ideas. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful night and just enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you again for just sharing some of your art and your history with us.